Technical difficulties, hey? All right. So I just want to introduce you again. We're going to kind of start from the beginning. So Chris Wiebe and I met quite a few years ago, and then maybe just sort of got to know each other a little bit better, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I love watching your art, and especially Instagram's so fantastic for that, right? Being able to kind of follow what people are doing. And one of the things that always struck me about you was the breadth of art that you do. So you're not just a painter, or at least you're not just a painter on canvas. True. You're a painter on people. You do amazing face painting, and you paint on objects, useful objects, and that kind of thing. And then, of course, you do paintings as well. So, what took you into face painting?
Yeah. So when I was 11.
11?
Yeah, 11 years old. That was only like a couple years ago.
Well, so, and you were saying before, I mean, so you're talking about 11, but you were saying like when you were 6 or 7, you were basically designing your own clothes.
Yeah.
Designing and creating your own clothes. So this is something that's been in your DNA, really.
Definitely.
Okay, so when you were 11, though.
Yeah, when I was 11. Yeah, so tragically, 2 of my uncles had been killed before Christmas, and one of my aunts was like, what are we going to do for Christmas? And so she turned around, she said, well, let's have a dinner and invite everybody. And when she said everybody, she literally meant everybody. And that was the onset of a giant family Christmas dinner that we had initiated, and it actually went over a period of 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was... at last count, we had on average 1,400 people.
What?
Yeah, coming for our Christmas dinners. It was the Bannerman Clark Christmas dinner.
Get out!
Yeah, in Calgary. And so it started in the basement of this little tiny church. And I was 11, and I couldn't cook turkeys, and I was really disappointed. And so I asked my grandmother, "What am I going to do?"
Yeah.
And so she bought me some face paints, and she said, "Here, you can do this." And literally that was the onset of my face painting. So I started from there. And then I had, because my family knows a lot of people in Calgary and stuff, I had opportunity to train with some pretty amazing people.
Yeah.
And John Cox was one of them. I don't know if anybody here knows of him or is aware of him, but he used to have like his own makeup studio, he used to be hooked up with like some of the modeling agencies and stuff. So he did like a lot of different unique makeup, and I would go and hang out with him and visit with him, and he would show me things.
Apprenticed.
Yeah. And I never really, beauty makeup was never my jam.
Yeah.
Right. And I get a lot of requests. People are like, can you come do beauty makeup? Can you do this?
I'm sure you would be good at it.
Yeah. And
it's just not your thing.
It's just not my thing because I don't know. I find sometimes people can get really finicky about that kind of stuff, and that's just, I like the attention to detail.
Weddings,
yeah,
right?
like
My God.
I don't think I'd have the patience for it, honestly.
No.
So, but anyways, yeah. Okay. So beauty makeup is not my jam, but doing special effects and blood and gore and like doing prosthetics or doing body art that can hide people or display different things. Yeah, like all kinds of stuff like that. Like I've done...
Do you ever watch the show where like they have a couple TV shows and one's on like Netflix or whatever, where it's the body painting thing? That's so cool. I
have friends of mine that have competed on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we have a national convention. There's actually body art conventions all around the world.
Oh.
There's an international body art competition that happens in Germany once a year. If you ever get the opportunity, go.
I'll bet.
Like amazing. Even if you're not there to compete or whatever, just to see and experience, it is a party unlike anything you will ever go.
Yeah. What I want to do. Was it in Berlin?
No. But it, like amazing. And actually, we have the 3-time world champion winner that lives in Airdrie.
Really? Yeah. Oh, wow.
So, but it's becoming more known, more well known, and more mainstream as an art style as well. So that's really fabulous because initially it was so taboo, and honestly, it's for some, I'm sure there's the sexual deviance behind it, but for anybody that I know, it has nothing to do with that. It's truly, it's an art form, and that's what it is. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, like I started at 11 and I just kind of progressed from there. Like I have pictures of me when I think I was like 11 or 12 when I had done these face paints on my friends, and like my friends were all like, yeah, we look so awesome. And like one of them was like a tiger, and one of them, I don't even know what they were. They were really hideous. Like I look back now and I laugh. And I mean, I'm in my bedroom with my corkboard behind me, and there's like Menudo on the wall. It's awesome. But yeah, that's how it started. And
so I mean, we're talking, okay, so we have like a little fashion designer,
yeah,
you know, at like 5 or 6, and you get into 11, you get into face painting.
Yeah.
All this time, are you also sort of in your space painting and
no?
When did that start? When did you sort of get the gumption for that one?
I started. So this whole time, like I just always, if something strikes me as, you know, something I want to try or something I want to do, that's what I would do. And I remember when I was 17, I started painting clothes. I don't know if anybody remembers these horrible jackets and t-shirts people were doing. Oh my God.
On the acid wash.
Right? Yeah, on the acid wash. And
they were fantastic, but terrible.
Yeah, they were horrible. They were so bad. But yeah, I had.
Although, you know what? If you had them now, you could sell them like crazy, right?
My daughter's looking for them.
And amazing. Yeah. Oh yeah.
She's actively looking for these jackets. I'm like, no.
You know.
They were wrong the first time.
Exactly.
But anyways, yeah, when I was 17, I had actually, I was living in Calgary, and I was like, how did anybody know about this? I had gotten a cease and desist letter from Disney because I had painted some Disney characters on jackets. Right?
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. Do not use Disney.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? You're like 17?
I was 17. I was like, am I going to jail? Like
Holy
legit,
cow.
I had no idea what to do or why this was happening or what this meant or whatever. I never painted another Disney character after that. Like ever. I was like, mm-mm.
Wow. So, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then I didn't start doing like art, I guess, until I was probably like 20, and my first son was like a year-ish, maybe 2. And I started with inks, colored inks. And I mean, like I played with art in school and I enjoyed it. And all those
Did you
things,
take art in high school and have like a really great teacher or no?
I did. Oh my God, Mr. Moore. He was amazing. Yeah. He was such a pothead. He was like such a pothead. Yeah, it was hilarious.
And did everyone know that?
Oh yeah, because he would be like, okay, everybody come here. Come. And we'd all go over and we're like, yeah. And he'd go, never mind. And we're all like, oh, damn, he got us again, right? Like the whole class. And they'd be like, oh, okay, everybody come here. And we'd all go, and he'd go, never mind. Shit, got us again. So
high school teachers, art teachers, though, teachers at all make a difference, right? I mean, there's just sort of that.
Yeah.
I don't know that teachers know how much, of a difference that they
make an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
And he was such a quirky little fellow. Like I always thought he was one of the Beatles. I was like, he's
really?
English. He has like this crazy mop hairdo, these big glasses, and this like awesome beard. Yeah. And just like his whole personality and whatever. And I was always like, you're fun. I like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he did. I mean, we did like some crazy stuff that I'd like to do again. Yeah. Like jewelry making. We did some stained glass stuff. We did lots of pottery. We did like all kinds of things. My favorite still is learning how to do like a juxtaposition, right? And creating those things. And
when you say that, do you mean between different techniques? Like when you say juxtaposition,
no,
what do you...
that was what the one instructor called the specific style.
Oh,
and
okay.
He gave us like all of these like little cards.
Yeah.
And he wanted us to make every single card completely different from every other one. And then we had to color something with oil pastels onto every single card from something in our environment that we found. We had to recreate on the card. And then we had to put them onto this board and mesh them together to make another picture.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was such an amazing project,
Yeah.
sorry. It was so much fun because everybody's was so unique and so different. Like
Yeah.
even the colors used and the techniques.
Did you know as you were going along that was going to be the end thing you had to do?
No clue.
So you were just like, okay, you need to do this. Now you need, and then now you need to take that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
it was really neat. So, you know, some of the things that you learned, it was really cool. But after that, I haven't really taken any art courses per se.
Right.
So I'm not a classically trained artist. And I think the onset of me selling the things that I make or created started when I was a single mom. Because I wanted to make all these awesome things, but I had no money.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And being an artist isn't cheap.
No.
So, especially when you want to try all these different things and do like all these different genres and techniques and that's when it started from there. And I was making these crazy ass beeswax candles, and I was making all kinds of things out of them, like bouquets of flowers and I don't even know, whatever.
It's funny because actually it was my first job. I was managing a storage company, and basically there's nothing going on, right? And so I would, this is back, let's see, late 80s. Yeah, late 80s. Like 87 or something. And so at that, of course, there were all the distressed like paint that you do, right? So that your room you do ragging, and it was
right?
all into that.
The sponging.
And so that everything looked like that. And there was one thing I saw on, I think it was like City Line or something like that. You know how they had the different people they would show. And so they were gluing on plastic flowers and leaves, and then you spray paint the whole thing black.
Okay.
And so it looked like wrought iron.
Right.
So I was doing crap like that. It was like so bad when I look at it.
Right.
But it was just always searching for something
doing
to
something,
do.
yeah.
Like needing to do something. And so it was something that was, and so of course, but it takes you through that space. It takes you through that learning. And when you don't have anything, and it was always this constant thirst for knowledge, whether it was knowledge how to do something or knowledge how to, take something in. Didn't necessarily have to be even art. Like it was just, and I find that with a lot of artists is there's sort of this constant wanting to know, never sort of, well, you can't. If you want to move unless you're going to be Bob Ross, who was great, but he did the same painting sort of over and over, right?
And he hated that.
Oh, did he?
He hated it, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched, did you watch a show? I haven't watched a show.
I watched
Or you just know.
Yeah, like I'm like trying to remember why I know that, but he was in the armed forces originally, and I know if you get hard to imagine with the hairdo.
I know, but you know what I did learn? That he permed his hair.
Yeah, and he did it for the show.
That shocked me.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
You wanted your hair to look like that?
That was definitely the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah,
because that was all about the man fro.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he was in the armed forces. And he was always a good painter. He always was skilled or whatever. And then he did a couple of episodes for like the free network.
Yeah.
And somebody saw him and loved it. And then they got him to commit and sign to so many shows and episodes. But then they had him sign this contract where he couldn't change his hair. And he had to make the same kinds of paintings over and over again. And by the time he was done, he was like, I'm so glad I'm done.
That's so interesting. Right? Wow.
So, but he was a good artist, right? But it makes me wonder if
what he would have created.
Yeah. Had he
years.
had opportunity to do his own work from inside him as opposed to what was being projected upon him, right?
I can't see you if someone said, you know what, we really like how you paint the windows, or really like those amazing mugs you make. So can you just do those? And you would be like, no.
I would laugh and laugh.
There'd be no way that I can see you sort of saying yes, that you would do that, because that's what's really prevalent in what you do. As you can definitely see that it's really important for you to grow and stretch and push and change and all those different things, right?
And to try all kinds of, I really do. And I talk about this a lot. Like, a lot of artists, and particularly classically trained artists, and this is not, I'm not dissing anybody, because everybody has their own skill sets, everybody has their own place and does their own things. But I find a lot will very often say, when you find something, become really good at it and master it and stay with it, so that you're known for that, and so that you can be that, and that's what you become masterful at. And that's great for some people. That's fantastic, and it is, that is wonderful, and all of those things. But that is not me as a person, and that's not me as an artist. For me, as a person and as an artist, I enjoy challenges, and I enjoy challenging myself and doing new and exciting things all the time. And if I see something, like, I intentionally go to different galleries. I love going to galleries in like little places. Like, I was in Canmore 2 weeks ago.
Blairmore has a cool little one too. Have you ever been out there? Yeah.
And I love going into, and I've stopped in Bragg Creek too, into these little tiny places, and they've got local artists that are displaying their things, and I love looking at them, because there might be somebody in there that I want to try. Or there might be somebody there that I want to learn more about that artist, or I want to support them, or I want to, whatever. And to me, it's almost like an education mission when I do those things. And, because I feel so inspired after visiting those places and after seeing other people's work, it makes me want to go and work harder. So, and I find that as an artist too, I mean, maybe this is just me, but if you're only staying in one place and you're not diversifying yourself, it's kind of like Alberta Oil and Gas. If you're not diversifying, what happens?
Side political note.
Yes, sorry.
But no, but I know what you're saying, that it is really important, and for growth, like any kind of growth, right? It requires that. It requires you to push yourself, diversify, change things, stop things, and try different things. So, I mean, we've kind of started in the beginning sort of saying how you were younger and then got into sort of, and then even the practical. So at 20, you're almost doing whatever you can. You're doing a kitchen table. You're doing it with little kids running around, and you're trying to figure out how you can get this creativeness out. And so did you continue your face painting through that? And was that something, or when you had little kids, was that something that got pushed aside a bit?
I kind of took a hiatus.
And body painting, I should say, not just...
like, I kind of took a hiatus from that for a little while, and then I had my second son when I was 28. And
it's quite a gap there. Your kids are actually gapped all over.
They're gapped all over. It's like I've had like 3 separate families. Pax is 8.
That's her youngest.
Yeah, it's my youngest. And my oldest is 29, and I have 3 grandkids. So Pax, I always joke and I call him holy shit, that still works, baby. So, but, other than that. But, I was 28, and I kind of took a hiatus from doing a lot of super creative things. Like, I was still doing things. I was making things for family. I was, whatever. But I think a big part of it too was I had a really hard time calling myself an artist, because during that time in my life, I looked at a lot of the things that I was doing as crafty as opposed to artistry. And
it's funny when people want to, right? We don't really need to have that separation,
I know.
do we?
No, at all. And it's such a huge thing, and it's a big thing to get over in your own mind and in your own brain, and for other people to recognize and acknowledge you as, and because people would say things like, oh, you're super crafty, aren't you? And I'm like, and yeah, right. And then other people would be like, oh, you seem like you have some artistic flair to you.
Or artsy fartsy. I used to get called artsy fartsy
all the time
because of like the way I dressed, or it was always, when you are an artist and you don't know how to get things out, or you can't afford to get things out, you're always doing something. So you get that artsy.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so artsy, right?
Yep.
And
you get that label, and but even in yourself, you're still like you're struggling. You're like, am I an artist? Am I just crafty?
Yeah.
Where's that line? And when do I jump over to that line? And have I, or am I qualified to be an artist because I didn't get any technical training in artistry? And I mean, I've had classically trained artists that have taken other kinds of training from, like more things like grant writing or stuff like that. And I'll ask them questions about different things, and they'll say, so what kind of art do you do? And I really downplay it because this is just not who I am to talk. Blah, 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 right? So just like, nah, I just, I do face and body art and some window painting or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, I guess we all do what we need to pay the bills, and I'm just like,
yeah.
So I've turned around, and in those circumstances, now with much more confidence, and I have said things like, you're right, but I'm actually making a living doing it. Are you making a living doing your art?
Yeah, exactly.
No? Okay, cool. Right? And, but it took a long time for me to acknowledge that, I'm actually an artist, and it's okay if people like my art, and it's okay if people don't like my art.
Is there, and this is maybe a silly thing to ask.
Never.
But what's your most favorite, if you could, obviously your biggest thing is not having to do one thing for the rest of your life. But what is one thing maybe you don't get to do enough of that's what you wish you could really expand or get into or learn, or do you have something that you're sort of I haven't figured that one out yet? Or not really, because you're just in there doing it, aren't you?
I would, I mean, honestly, the one thing that I'd really like to try that I haven't yet, just more because opportunity hasn't presented itself, and particularly with COVID going on right now, right? Is I'd like to look at doing some stained glass.
Yeah,
right?
Me too.
I think it is amazing. I think it's beautiful. I had a family member years ago who did a lot of it, and I remember being in their house, and it was in BC and Vernon, and it was just such an amazing feeling being in that house. I think I was 10, and
oh, you'd just be in your glory, wouldn't you?
Right? Totally. And their house was so filled with windows, and there's all these trees and forests and stuff around, and there's all these shiny,
oh my goodness,
things in the windows, and I was like, I love it here, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna be here forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to do some stained glass and kind of play with that a little bit, and I want to go back and play with some clay.
I would like to do that too. Yeah, I haven't for a long time either. Maybe, hopefully, like you say, when COVID sort of settles down a bit, because I'd also like to do, when I was in university, I did some printmaking. I'd like to get back into doing some printmaking, and we're so lucky to have CASA, right? Where we can do the clay, and we can do and so we're so lucky to have that, and I'm looking forward to when we can actually sort of use that again and be able to be close again, and that kind of thing. But let's see, where should we go from there? So you have your kids, and you've got now your second kid at 29, right?
First one's at 29.
I thought your second one was at wasn't your first one at 20?
My oldest is, oh no, for me having them, yes, I'm sorry, I was giving you the names or the ages of the kids.
Oh
yeah, so I was 19 for my first one,
and
then I was 28 for my second one, and then I was 30, and then there was PAX,
right?
Dun dun dun. so
but in there, are you able to, what are you doing in there? What's your life? Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was kind of chaos. I actually started face painting again in Lethbridge, and when I first started face painting, it was so hard, man.
Yeah.
People here did not want to pay for art, period.
They still don't really.
They still don't. Like, when I look at what a painting sells for here versus what a painting sells for in like Canmore, my mind is blown.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
wow, like I'm seriously undervaluing my paintings here, but that's because
they are undervalued by everybody.
They're seriously undervalued.
Yeah.
And everybody wants them. Everybody wants to have them. Everybody wants to own, you know, amazing art, but nobody ever wants to pay for it in this community. And I don't know what that's about, but it took a really long time because I was one of the first face painters out here to get people to pay. Right. And I mean, I had people, you know, laugh in my face. You expect to get what? And I'm like, you betcha. Mm-hmm. And I'm worth every damn penny.
Well, and that surprises me mostly. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because no one wants to pay for art. That doesn't surprise me. But when we say face painting and body painting, we're not talking about just sort of putting a butterfly on a face.
Yeah.
Your face painting is something that's to another level, right? I mean, it's and we talked about sort of it being amazing at how quick you've gotten at doing it as well. So you've got this amazing art that you are creating. I mean, little kids, like I say, they're not walking away with sort of butterflies and a little puppy dog, you know, tongue on them kind of thing, right? I mean, they're kind of a high art that in any other city even would have a different value to them. Yeah. But I'm glad that you're getting paid for them. Yeah. And it is so, like at the Comic-Cons or whatever, when you're there and I watch people, I'm like, oh, yeah, Chris is here. I haven't seen her yet, but
yeah, right?
She's here.
and it's so funny, like, and what you just said is true. Like, for example, like a face paint here at a small event, if I've chosen to be a vendor, I'm not going to get more than $10 for a face.
Is that right?
Whereas somebody with lesser skill, lesser experience, far inferior supplies, in Calgary will get $20 a face. Wow. Right? Or $25 a face. But that's the thing that kills me, is the people that live here will travel there and then we'll pay that. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it's peculiar. But I mean, it took me probably 3 years to get people to acknowledge that there was value to this and that it is an art form, and you have to pay for it. I'm not going to come and do it for free.
Yeah. And when you, being as you sort of said, you met people in Calgary, trained with a lot of people in Calgary, and then in Lethbridge you just saw a need for it, or was just something you felt like doing, or?
I actually, because I had 3 kids at the time, and
you can bundle them up and take them wherever.
That's right? Exactly what I was doing, like literally. And when Pax was born, oh my God, I had so many events and bookings and whatever. Like, I literally worked up till 2 days before I had Pax, doing events. And after he was born, like 6 weeks after he was born, I was out doing events again, and I like had him in the sling and he was on my stomach, you know, whatever, and I'm painting and people are like, and he'd start fussing and I'd be like, just a second, and it'd pop a boob and keep him in the sling, and they're like, do you have a baby in there?
No,
don't mind that. Good. No big deal. And then but yeah, and it honestly, it was an art form, and it was a business venture, and it was something that as a mom I could do to make money, and take my kids with me when I need to, because they all wanted to be at the events that I was at anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So, and there's other moms that I work with now that are in the exact same scenario and have grown from it too, right? And they see it, and we try and support other moms coming into it, and we try and support, like, it's face painting frankly is very gender based business, and it really is, and it is mostly women that are involved in it because they have families, and because the schedule of face painting works around the schedule of your family and around the schedule of your partner if they're working full time.
Right.
Because it's evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And that's when you're available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But that being said, it's like every other art form where men are usually recognized more prominently than women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is ironic because it's like 90% women.
Yeah. I don't know how that happens.
Right?
But it does in so many. I mean, we see it in hairdressing and that kind of thing. There's always a cachet given to a man who might be doing the same thing that
in nursing. Same deal.
Oh yeah, I never thought about
exact
that.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Men that are nurses will actually advance further and get higher pay scale almost immediately following coming out of school.
But feminism, we don't need it anymore. There's no need for it anymore. It's all good. It's all equal.
Yeah, it's fine.
Piece of cake. Piece of cake.
No problems here. But yeah, so. I know that we really try and support other women in the community with what we do. And we hire other local artists to come when we do bigger events and stuff. And we always try and offer training. And even if they don't have their own supplies, we'll give them supplies and stuff because it's an opportunity for them to come and learn some skills and be able to work and also to have some of that camaraderie too, right?
Yeah,
because let's be honest, we all need to get the hell out of the house every once in a while and have that exchange with people. So, yeah.
So then we were talking a bit about your painting. Is that something that is private for you, or is it something then you're trying to get out and make sure you sell those, or is it kind of? We had, unfortunately, before we got cut off, but we were talking a bit about how painting was something that. You didn't start till quite a bit later, in a way, later in life.
Yeah.
And is it something that, being as you kind of started late in life, is this something that sort of, I don't know, for me, I guess I'm thinking, because I feel very self-conscious about my painting. I feel, it's something I did come to late in life, and I do feel very, it almost is a private thing, and to think of trying to sell it feels very weird and foreign to me. And even though I value art, even though I buy art, even though all those different things, I always feel self-conscious of.
Well, because it's exposing yourself.
It's so exposing
It's
yourself.
exposing who you are. Yeah. It's not just like if we think of physically exposing ourselves, right? Like that's different too. But you're almost like meh, whatever. Like for me, I'm a woman that's had 4 kids. I'm like whatever. I've had people all up in my business and it didn't, whatever. Like, you want to see it, get over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas when it's coming from that internal part of you, that's something that you're not always willing to share with people, and something that maybe people don't even know about you. Maybe they don't know you have a dark side. Maybe they don't know that you have this light side. Maybe they don't know you have this twisted sense of humor or whatever, right? And then you bring that forward into your art form. And then you're like, oh, now I gotta share this with people? Like, that's weird. Awkward.
And not only share it with someone, but then sell it.
Yeah. Well, and how do you price that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do you price this piece of art or whatever? And that was something that took me a really long time too. Even just pricing your art. Like, I stopped putting just generalized price tags on my art. Because that's what I used to do. I'd be like, oh, well, I feel like it should be valued at this.
So how do you price it?
Because of this and this and this.
Yeah.
And now I use a mathematical process.
Really?
You betcha.
Yeah, I've heard a few people do it. Can you just explain that a bit for those who don't?
So, for example, like window painting, it's the same price for everybody. And we charge $7 a square foot. And the reason that we do that is because it literally removes emotion out of it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And then there's no attachment to it. There's no like, oh, well, yeah, I suppose, right? Like, it's just not it's not there. It's not valued the same. It's
right.
Look, here's what it's going to cost.
Yep.
And you can either agree to pay it or not.
Yep.
And people sometimes are like, well, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, adios.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, because you don't, and I think that is a good place to come. And because you are valuing your art then, right? You're saying, here's what I need in order to make it worth it for me.
Yeah.
You can either do it or not, because otherwise I think it's one of the things I dislike so much is when people could you donate art to this? It'll be good exposure for you.
Yes.
And no one asks a plumber to come and fix a sink because it'd be good exposure for them.
How many artists have died from exposure every single year?
That's true. That's
because you cannot pay for your bills with exposure, people.
No.
It doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah, I can't go to the grocery store with my exposure bucks and buy steak. Right? Like, it just ain't happening.
Exactly.
I can't pay for the lights in my house with my exposure bucks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I tell people that all the time.
So how do you do it for your paintings?
For my paintings, I actually charge per square inch.
You do?
Yeah. And I have calculated...
That's so cool.
Yeah, based on... But it also depends, too, because for some paintings, I'll put a higher square inch rate on it, based on if there's greater intricacies involved in it, if there was more materials or pricier materials used, those kinds of things. And then I also increased my pay per square inch based off of my
attachment to it.
No, but based off of my skills as an artist now, because now I have an established people are starting to know who I am in the community, and so I've started to build a reputation for myself, and I've had several art shows under my belt, and I've had those experiences, and I've had people seek me out and these kinds of things, and those are the kinds of things that push an artist's value up.
Yeah.
Right? And not in a negative way. Like, my art is not priced out of this world. It's not. It's very reasonable for my art. But yeah, I have to remember to give myself these natural increases in my rate for when I'm doing art and creating art. And I've had people say, oh my God, like, why would you charge that much for that painting? And I'm like, oh my God, why would you ask me that?
Yeah, exactly. Why would you ask me that?
Right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And
people do you feel like it's like, does it correspond or correlate, I guess maybe is a better word, your feeling of worth in your art with your feeling of worth as a person and as your skills and your... Or
it used to.
It used to.
Yeah. It used to a lot. And when we talk about that exposure of exposing ourselves, not being paid in exposure, but exposing ourselves through our art forms, that was really, really hard to see anybody looking at my art in a negative way, because I took that very critically and I internalized that, and it was really hard to get through that.
I still do.
Yeah. And now, because this was part of it too. I was teaching, those paint night classes, paint night courses or whatever. We came up with the idea of teaching children, and we loved it so much.
Idea.
Oh my God, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
Kids are amazing. Kids are so amazing.
Yeah.
They're so filled with self-confidence.
Yeah. They're
amazing little creatures. The things that they come up with, and I mean, like we would come up with some simplistic designs, and we would do like a base drawing in the center, and then the kids would get to paint it, and we'd go step by step with them, and we'd do it over the period of an hour, and then we would ask the kids, okay, well, what do you think? And let's see it. We'd give them glitter and extra crap to put on their paintings, and they're like, oh my God, do you see what I just did? I'm the most amazing artist in the world, right? And you're like, you really are.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah.
That is an amazing painting. They're like, I know. I just told you that.
So they're teaching you.
They're teaching me. Like,
yeah.
It was such an amazing experience. And then we did a few adult paint nights, and it was heartbreaking.
Aww.
Truly heartbreaking, because there was not a person in the room that was satisfied or happy with their art.
Yeah.
Not a single one.
Yeah.
And we would literally have to take their art. I'm just going to use my phone for this. And we would say, okay, you know what? And I would literally take their art away from them, and I would walk across the room, and I'd say, do something else for a few minutes. And they're like, fine, be like that, you know?
Yeah.
And then I would, from across the room, I'd be like, hey, do me a favor, take a look. Yeah. And I would hold up their art like this, their painting, and I'd be like, what do you think? And they'd be like, it's actually not so bad. And I'm like,
that's
right?
funny. Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that. Earlier today in this space, I was painting with my mom. She did that little green thing up there. It's the little study that she's doing. But it was the same thing. We realized we're this close from our paintings, right? And so she was like, oh, and you know, and I was too. And then we stepped back. Oh, actually, right. And so sometimes, yes, you have to step back to be able to see what you need to fix or what you need to, but also sometimes in a way, metaphorically, we need to step back and sort of look at what we're doing and give ourselves credit.
Yeah.
Or even critique, whatever it takes. But we do, like that whole, I feel like I'm going on now, but
no, it's okay.
There was also, I had an experience not very long ago, and it wasn't a good one. And it reminded me somewhere in philosophy where it was like stepping backwards when you're at an abyss is a step forward.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it sort of really hit me as sometimes we need to do that, right? You
Absolutely.
need to step back. And so metaphorically as well as literally. And
it's so true. I mean, as artists, or rather as adults, not even as artists. Oh, battery.
Thanks for noticing. Wonder how long ago that went. Oh, we're at 42 minutes, so it can't be that long. Are you still going, little thing? Oh, you're just still going.
Okay.
So, hi.
As adults, I find that we have lived an entire lifetime of people telling us we're not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in so many different ways. Like our bodies aren't right, our hair is not right, our jobs aren't right, our faces aren't right, our cars aren't right, our clothes aren't right, our, like, literally everything in our life is not right.
Yeah.
And every media platform on the planet tells you that.
Yep.
And you're inundated with it, and I mean, it's like, it's insane, right?
Yeah.
So it's no wonder that as artists, we're always trying to qualify, am I good enough?
Yeah.
Is this a good enough piece? Are people going to find value in this?
Yeah.
Are people going to, you know, like when I look back to the beginning pieces that I actually sold, like my first painting, like the one painting, I was like, oh my God, somebody actually bought that?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
But it's because that piece spoke to them on whatever level.
Yeah.
It spoke to that person and it meant something to them.
Yeah.
Right?
And did it mean anything to you, that particular painting?
It did. It was about, I was going through nursing school at the time, and I had a lot of problems in nursing school. On several different occasions, they tried to mute my mouth, and they tried to kick me out. They did kick me out. They accused me of plagiarism. They couldn't make the accusation stick because it wasn't true.
Yeah.
I was told that I wasn't smart enough to have come up with the content of a paper.
Get out.
Yeah. I wasn't bright enough or intelligent enough to come up with content of a paper that I had written. And I did. I had come up with it all. And they're like, well, how did you know that? And I said, acquired knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Exactly.
That's why I'm here, is to acquire knowledge.
Wow.
And anyways, it was a long story. So I painted this crazy painting. Like I look back at it now and I'm like, wow. But it was how I was feeling. Like it was like this big-eyed woman, and like her features were distorted and stuff, but she had everything, and her hair was like this crazy, like, woo, almost like turkey feathers. Like,
oh wow.
I don't even know. But she had no mouth.
Oh wow.
Like nothing, just no mouth.
Wow.
And the rationale behind it was,
that's not even muted.
No,
like that's worse.
That's worse. Yeah. Like I wasn't allowed to speak. I wasn't allowed to, you know, anything, react, respond, anything.
Yeah.
And I'm a really strong advocate, and I have always been in trouble my entire life and continue to get in trouble for speaking my mind.
Yeah.
And for saying something when I see something that's inappropriate or wrong. And, you know, I got hauled into the dean's office the one time because the one instructor had a laundry list of things that she didn't like about me. And they were things like, you know, your laugh is too loud, you're too this, you're too that, and, you know, all of these things. And I turned around and I looked at her and I was like, well, frankly, I don't give a fuck.
Good for you.
And she was like, what?
Yeah.
Right? And the dean was like, what? And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
That is all personal, and it has literally nothing to do with my academic abilities here.
Yeah.
And if you can say that I didn't follow through with something, that I didn't do something that I was supposed to do, that I was unsuccessful as a student somewhere, or that I put somebody in harm or in jeopardy or any of these other things, that's great. But if you can't, and the worst thing that you have is a laundry list of crap that you don't like about me, that's not my problem, that's yours.
Where did you get that? Where did you get that strength and that courage? And because that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
I've been in situations like that, and that's not an easy thing to do. So what gave you the courage to be able to do that? Have you always had that moxie?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've just, like from the time that I was a little kid, I was always standing up for somebody else. If I saw something that was inappropriate, like I remember grade 4, I had an issue with another teacher because he kept bullying one of the students in the class. And I turned around and looked at him and was like, back off.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And I was like,
this isn't right.
This isn't okay. You need to stop.
Yeah.
You're being mean.
Yeah.
And he's like, how dare you? And I was like, how dare you? You're an adult, right? So I get myself into trouble a lot.
So when we're talking about that and art, it's still even though you have that moxie when it comes to who you are and what's in there, it still was a bit frightening when you're starting out and then you're putting yourself out there on a canvas. Isn't it odd how we can have in our life, we can sort of go F you, and I don't care about this, I don't care about that. And yet when it comes to showing something where we've putting ourselves out there in this thing that we've created, it's, I don't know, I feel like, because I'm pretty much an out there, you know, F you kind of person, but then when it comes to that, I'm like, you know.
Well, and that's a really good question. Like, when it comes to art, now I truly look at it and I say, when I talk about my art to people, I will tell people, art is meant to evoke emotion. And people are like, well, what do you mean? And they'll say, you know, this is hideous, this piece here, and this is this, and, you know, that one's amazing, and and whatever. And I'll say to them, look, it's meant to evoke emotion, but it doesn't matter what kind of emotion. The emotion could be love. It could be hate. It could be, you know, any kind of emotion, happiness, joy, disgust. It could be anything. Even when people have walked away from my paintings and been like, you know, if I've seen it or whatever, I'm actually going, nailed it.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I got an emotional response from that person.
Yeah.
And that was the point of it. I didn't paint that painting for that person. I painted that painting for me. That was something that I wanted to do because it meant something to me at the time. And if it got a response from you, that's all I want. Right? That's really all I want. It's the people that just go, where I'm like,
hey,
say something.
Come on.
So
speaking of time, how do you find time for your art? I mean, we've talked about kids, and you got how's Pax? He's 9, did you say? 8.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got kids at home. You've got, how do you find time for it? Do you make time? Is it something that happens?
It doesn't happen naturally anymore. Like it just doesn't. I have to like literally. So basically, in my living room, what I'll do if I've gone through a period of time where I haven't created anything, that there's art that I create for work. And then there's art I create to fulfill something in me. And when I need to do that, I literally go to the living room and I go like this, boosh, off the coffee table.
Yeah.
And then I pull out my stuff and people are like, oh, Mom. And I'm like, back off. Leave me alone. Right?
I need this time.
Yeah. And I'll spend like 3-4 days and I just like hammer out all these paintings because I've had all these ideas or whatever, or maybe I don't even have a clue what I'm going to start with or what I'm going to do, or I'll just start playing with paint or smearing paint around or whatever. And the experience of going through that, once I start one and then I move to another and then I move to another, and then it's all of a sudden it's just like it just starts flowing and coming out. It's almost like bleh, emotional, right? And then I think the most I ever put out in one day was like 7 paintings I did.
Wow, girl. Yeah. That's crazy.
Just like, boom,
wow.
Done.
See, I usually have at least 4 or 5 on the go. Although I have them in the studio, so it's different, right?
Yeah.
When you have them at home, you can just sit and... But I usually have them on the go because my attention span's not enough. And so then I just, I'm always like, maybe this one will work. Maybe I'll do this one for a while. But... oh damn, I had a question I was going to ask you. Now I totally forget. See, I shouldn't go on my little tangent about me.
No, it's all good.
Oh, you know what I was going to ask is a lot of your work, it doesn't matter. I'm thinking like even the stuff that you have, like the wonderful mugs. I've got one of your mugs, which I love. But do you make art that is purely ever abstract? Like they're always abstracted from what I've seen, or they've always got sort of this splash of, I'm not going to be too, not that they're not perfect, but they're not, do you know what I mean?
They're not formed. They're not
they're these wonderful,
they're not,
yeah. They've definitely got an abstraction to the movement. I have to find they've got a lot of movement to them. But do you ever just sort of go in there and just completely abstract, I'm not going to have anything representational in here, or is that not your style?
You know, I try with abstract. And honestly, I have not been fully comfortable with anything that I've created.
Yeah.
I enjoy color so much, and I love playing with the textures, and I love formulating things and seeing how I can build on things. And I don't know. It's a really good question. I have created some abstract pieces, but they're not anything that I'm like, I feel really good about that.
Yeah, it's just not your,
Yeah, and it's...
Like I say, though, there is a wonderful abstraction that you have to them. And even just the coffee mug I have, because I was looking at this morning with my coffee in it, it is definitely, I think it's a flower, right? But it has all these sort of abstract, like thing, disrupt it and move and the different colors, textures, right? Like textures seem huge. So yeah, it just felt like things are abstracted, but that they're always, from what I've seen, that they have, I don't know, that to it.
There's usually something in it, And even with my alcohol inks and stuff, like when I'm using those, or if I'm using like almost every media that I'm using, it's I'm always creating something from it. And I look at some of abstract pieces that people do, like even incorporating the words and little sayings and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful, that's amazing. And I'm like, I don't think I am that organized to make that, because I find almost doing an abstract piece almost takes more in a different way.
I guess the reason I ask is because you've talked so much about sort of this feeling, right? And really working through that. And so, sort of that this is... I have made
abstract pieces. Like I made one... so I'm also ADHD. I consider it my superpowers. Lots don't. My poor husband, because everybody in my family's ADHD, like all my kids and myself. Except for him.
Oh, poor guy.
And I'm like, sorry about your luck, honey. But I made this one piece, and it was like, I called it ADHD. And that's what the piece was. And it was completely abstract, and it was like chaos but beautiful, and it had like metallics in it, but then they were muted metallics, and there was like all of these other things, and I had used like some texturizing medium and just
kind of everything
in it. But it was never a piece that was for sale. It was never a piece. It was
more of a process.
Yeah, it was a process. And so when I do those kinds of pieces, that's for me.
Yeah.
And it's never been I'm going to make this. Oh, I like it. I'll sell it. Right.
Would you paint over it and not in a, painting it all out and whiting it, but then adding something onto a painting like that? Or once you've finished it, is it done and I need a fresh canvas?
It's usually I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not one that will go back and pick at a canvas, right, over a period of time. I've done it with a couple, but I find when I personally go and do something like that, then I end up picking the canvas apart or making it something that I'm like, well, why did I go and do that?
Yeah.
Now I feel like I ruined it, right?
Yeah.
Because I've overworked it, in my opinion.
Right.
So I don't often do that. Have I painted over canvases? Yes.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy taking old paintings and covering them and using the texture from underneath to make something new.
Yeah. I was talking to Eileen Murray, and because I have a bunch of paintings here that as I was starting painting, and I'm like, okay, that's not great. So I was talking to her and I was like, yeah, and she's like, just now paint over. You don't need to paint over the end, but who knows what that background is going to inform? Who knows what's going to happen with that? Maybe there won't be much. Maybe there'll just be a little circle or a teacup over here that has that pattern in it. And I thought it was such a, I don't know, I guess it's not something I really thought of. I thought of painting over it, but I didn't think about how that background or that original painting can now sort of come through and be something that really informs, even if it's a tiny little piece. Yeah, I thought it was just kind of a beautiful way of looking at it, and it helped give me some freedom maybe to then to do that, to just take these paintings and paint over them and figure out where they're at and what's going on.
Like I have, oh my God, I have so many paintings in my garage. It's hilarious. I had honestly had forgotten how many paintings I had out there. I went out there, I don't know, like 2 months ago to get something out of the garage with my husband, and I was like, oh, well, would you look at that?
Yeah.
That's a lot of canvases. And my husband's like, I know.
Yeah.
Right? And
well, and we were talking art being expensive. That's why I was like, I'm painting over these suckers.
Right? Exactly. Right? Like when you're paying so much money for your canvases, like some of my canvases are like $100 a piece. Yeah. And with all the paint that you use on them and the time or whatever, like, yeah, you paint over them. And I've had some really interesting pieces come out from painting over other paintings, and I really like the textures or the movement of the paint or whatever. So
that history kind of still comes through.
Yeah.
So even though you have painted over them, you're still seeing those brush strokes and the builds up here or there, and then
and I'll even find ways to augment them to make them stand out even more. Because I'll add it into the foreground of the current painting somehow. I really do enjoy doing that, and that's something that I only started doing probably the last year and a half. So,
and why do you think that is? Just because you've had time, or do you feel like something's shifted in what you do, or?
No, I just honestly, it was the surplus of paintings that I had. Right, I was like,
I know.
This one is never going to go anywhere because, like the ADHD piece, I was like, it's not going to go anywhere. This was cathartic for me. This was not a sale piece. This was not anything that was ever meant to be shown to others per se. It was like something that I would share, but it wasn't ever like a gallery piece or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just a piece that I was working through. And so like something like that, to do over and then work with it and see what you get.
Yeah.
And it's plain, really, it's plain.
Absolutely.
You're figuring out, oh, how can I make this different? Or what can I do? Or how can I add this? Or how can I, whatever, right?
Yeah. Have you ever done collaborative pieces? Is collaboration something that, I mean, obviously in your, the window paintings that you do and that kind of thing, you have a partner there. Do you guys collaborate and literally work on the same canvas right there, or is it sort of she does this one, you do that one, or how do you find the collaborative process?
So for us, it's actually really entertaining. People will watch us paint. We don't do like canvases per se, like gallery canvases. We have done like some public art pieces, and we have done murals, and we have done the window painting and whatever. And we have...
You guys did a mural for school, didn't you?
We did some murals for a seniors facility.
Oh, that's what it was, right.
Yeah, and we've done some other murals as well. And then we have done, we did a big art piece that is out by Galt Gardens outside there. It's like called the Waterways or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, and they contracted us to come and paint it. We didn't design it. The design wasn't ours. It's again, sorry.
Okay, I think we're still going at least.
That's okay.
We'll, yeah, it is, but we will, we're at 10%.
That's all good.
Thank you for noting.
Yeah, when we did that piece, like we just get so into it. And it's almost like we have our own language when we're doing it. And whether we're garbed out in respirators, whether we're, you know, we're using pot guns or airbrush guns, or we're using spray paint or paintbrushes or whatever, you know, we're like up on top of things and crawling through things and on ladders and on like whatever.
Yeah.
And we know what each other needs. And we'll just, yep, you know.
How long have you two been working together?
We, ironically, we met at a body paint convention in Calgary in 2010. Both from Lethbridge, but went to the same convention. So weird.
Yeah.
And
it was fate.
It was fate.
Yeah.
And we met there, and we proceeded to get very intoxicated the second night. Way too intoxicated. And yeah, we did some training together, and yeah, and it wasn't for probably about 3 years, 2-3 years after that. I mean, we knew each other, but each of us had our own business. And you know, sometimes artists can be really competitive with each other instead of embracing with each other,
especially when they're monetary sort of things, right?
Yeah,
agreed.
And so it was hard for us to decide and kind of figure out what our relationship was going to be.
Yeah.
And then we realized, honestly, we're just so much alike. It was ridiculous. And we complement each other very well, and especially for the larger pieces. We know that each of us has our weaknesses. We know each of us has our strengths. And we don't take it personal when we stand back and go, okay, that looks ridiculous. We got to fix that. Get out of the way. Right. And the other one will step in and do something to adjust or impact.
That is very unusual, right? Yeah. It's a hard thing to sort of have someone go and paint over yours. You really have to trust.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like, there's not a lot of artists that work together the way that we work together. And I mean, even right now, we're working on doing a 15 window panel, right? I know. And it's
where?
At City Hall.
Oh.
And they've asked us to do a winter scene.
Yeah.
And incorporate like 20 different holidays.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. Okay, so picture that. That's a lot. So
we'll have to add that photo after it's done.
So I've been drawing out the main design for the 15 windows.
So are they all those windows that are
on the outside?
Wow.
And then Jerry, my painting partner, she's, you know, there's certain things that I've been trying to incorporate into the basic design to establish the idea of that holiday throughout the pattern. And then
why do they want all the holidays? Is something to do with like...
They just want to try and represent.
Oh, okay. Now I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, so like different cultures.
Different cultures and different types of holidays. And but some of them didn't make any sense. Some of them made great sense. Yeah. Some of them we were like, you've repeated this particular one 3 different times.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. But whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the base, and Jerry has spent the last like 24 hours coming up with ideas to incorporate onto the base to represent, and doing some research. Like, both of us are doing research on it as well, but that's the collaboration part of it, right? Like, it's such a big piece, and if you don't do it right, it's not going to flow well, and people won't understand it or see it.
Yeah.
But when we do big pieces like that too, we personally try and make a stand to make sure that people are represented or that there's equal representation. So, for example, City Hall windows that we did for Canada Day, that was our first opportunity doing anything for City Hall.
Yeah.
And we had a family of color. We had an Indigenous family. We had a same-sex marriage family. We had, you know, different cultural groups and representations. Of course, we can't represent everybody, but we tried to make it a little more representative of the groups and cultures in Lethbridge.
Right.
And I will tell you, it was extremely rewarding because there was a young family that went by and they went past the one group of the windows and they were like, walked past and then they backed up. I walked past again and then they backed up again. And they turned around and they said, wow, I've never seen me on this like this before.
Oh, wow.
Right? And that just stuck so solidly for both of us. And it was an amazing opportunity. And I think, like we told different people at the city about it. And, you know, we said, we know that Lethbridge is pretty conservative, but we feel like this kind of thing is important and people need to be represented.
Yep.
And they were very supportive of it and very happy with the outcome. So I think that's part of why they've asked what they've asked for the winter windows, which is great. I mean, honestly, they couldn't pick better people for the job because clearly we're up for the challenge or we're crazy enough for the challenge. I don't know, whatever way.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we're not going to run out of time. I'm getting worried now. My phone's been coming up with the notifications that our battery is running low. Imagine if we had that. Like all of a sudden we were just sitting here and it's like, you know, Chris's battery is kind of going low. Wrap it up. Mine would have been dead a while ago. Big red.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like mine does do that sometimes. But
it would be lovely to have both you and Jerry on again and like be able to talk about, especially collaboration. I mean, I've been in art collectives and worked on collaborations, and it's something that really interests me. Both the dynamics of doing that, as far as even so the dynamics of that person with you, right? And that trust that you have to have with that person. And then your dynamics of different things you're good at and not good at, and that sort of thing. So I'd love to be able to talk to both of you another time.
Sure, I'm sure she'd love it.
Thanks for going with the flow. This was kind of a big up and down thing, and our live didn't work, but we just made do, and I really appreciate it. And it was nice getting to know you just a wee bit more.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Girl, I totally get it.
You know what I think I'm going to do, though? I think I am going to just let them know that I'm just